on Saturday, it was a great way to be able to play 4 quarters of football and do some things at a high manner in all 3 phases. So pleased with that outcome. It was a great opportunity, like we said, to get to a bowl game and reach that. Congratulate the team after the game and then in the locker room and then again yesterday. But right after that, we won't talk about the bowl game again. We are 100% focused on a great SMU opponent this Saturday. One of the top offenses in the entire country. They put up a lot of points. They got the top receiver in the country, one of the top quarterbacks in the country. They do a lot of great things. Veteran team that's had a lot of success. And then obviously their defensive coordinator was a guy named Scott Simons, who actually was on our coaching staff here as a linebacker coach. So got to be prepared for everything from us changing our signals to them having a good understanding of what we try to do offensively. So a lot at stake this Saturday. Excited for a great week of preparation as we move forward.
You faced a lot of good quarterbacks and receivers. How does Rice and Mordecai kind of stack up with some of the better ones you guys have had to defend again?
Yeah, I keep going back. I said I keep waiting for more of these younger quarterbacks to be able to face, but Mordecai is one of those that's done it at a high level for a long time. Obviously, a transfer in from Oklahoma, but has had success at SMU, has put up some really nice numbers. And then Rice is it is what it is. He's the top receiver in all of college football, and he's a legit first-round pick that plays really well. I don't see any deficiencies in his game. So this will be the best quarterback-wide receiver combo. Plus, they got a bunch of other weapons. They're still running the ball really well, averaging over 5 yards a carry. Their offensive line is playing really well. Their tight ends. I mean, so there's not a whole lot of weaknesses in their offense. But then you add 2 guys that are playing at all-American level. It can give you some concerns.
Does it make it fun? I guess fun isn't the word, but does it make it a good challenge to kind of prepare for an offense that can do so much, like you mentioned?
I wish they didn't do as much. So yeah, it's fun. You and I have different definitions of fun than having just more sleepless nights, I guess. But no, look, you always want to play great competition, and truly is right. You know, you look at what SMU has done, and they're doing some really good things. I mean, they went toe to toe with TCU, a college football playoff team, and but then you go back and they've been playing at a high level. They had the very similar first half versus Tulane that we had. You kind of watch that game like, well, seen that story before, and it was very similar. But other than that, I mean, they're hemming and rolling and having success at home. So we're gonna have to have our best foot forward. But yeah, it's always what a great way to end the regular season, right? 2 teams that are battling to try to maybe secure a winning season for sure. And just we know that it's been a rivalry, the last few games, going back to game day and then just kind of the back and forth. I even looked back at I keep that game day ball on my shelf, and I looked back and said, man, that score is actually a lot closer. It was, under a touchdown score game. So it's been a heck of a deal back and forth, and excited to get down to Dallas.
What was it that Tulane did that stymied them?
So a lot of it was actually self-inflicted wounds, which you've heard me use here before, Dave, with what happened, right? It was a punt return that was called on the 10-yard line that they fumbled, right, and then SMU scored. It was a kickoff return back to the 36-yard line. So a lot of self-inflicted wounds, some uncanny turnovers. So that was really more of it. Now, credit Tulane, right? Tulane's played at a really high level all season. But I think one of those SMU would look back and say, man, we beat ourselves, especially in that first half. And I said, like I was just telling Evan, I mean, gosh darn, that reminds me exactly of our first half. And so, when SMU plays clean football, they're hard to stop.
Back to your comment about the QB receiver combo. You've played against some top tier quarterbacks. You played against Stokes and Tulsa receiver. How has those experiences kind of prepared you for an offense like that?
Yeah, I think what's helped us is we've seen a variety of different offenses all season. Starting from game 1 to game 2, and then throughout, and seeing some dynamic players. And that's the one thing. When you open the season versus Mississippi State, you're going to see a high-powered offense with an all-American type quarterback and some great wide receivers and offensive weapons. Then you go through the season, and our conference is loaded with some talent, right? Even last week, I mean, we saw probably the Walter Payton Award winner, the top FCS football player as a running back. So now you're just seeing talented players after talented players. So the ability to prep against those and play them in real life on Saturdays, and now another challenge this Saturday, certainly should bode well for us. Now, we played a ton of different guys in our secondary, so I think that's kind of that rotation is, okay, do we feel comfortable with where we're at and our depth at the secondary, and have those guys been able to face those type of opponents? And we'll try to replicate it to our best of our ability, but and no knock on maybe even our scout team, but it's going to be hard to replicate the type of production those guys have had.
You mentioned this SMU offense. They've obviously put up a lot of points. They've given up a lot of points, too. So does that kind of make it another challenge where it's not just say, you got to try to contain them, but you might be able to find some ways to kind of keep up with them in a way, with what they've been giving up lately a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before in the past, with the way some of these things have gone is you never want to play, okay, you always want one more point than them. That's not just coach speak, but you look at some of these games, right? You don't ever think just to be shootouts, right? And our defense is playing at a really high level. And you look at their game versus Houston, right? I mean, you turn on the score and you're saying, oh my goodness, like we've seen a really good Houston defense. Obviously, last weekend with what they did to East Carolina, at East Carolina, 42-3, I think was the final, or something of that nature. But they held East Carolina to 3 points. And then you look the week before, obviously, SMU was very effective versus them, putting up 77 points. And you look at what the score was in the second quarter, you said, how does this even happen? So, you don't want to get in one of those games where it's just a boat race. Okay, you score, we score. And you just got to play. We got to play sound in all three phases. And I think that's whichever team can play clean football, offense, defense, and special teams, will come out the winner of this game. But look, there's times where you put on there and they're saying, man, their defense does a lot of good things. I know Coach Simons is going to bring a variety of different pressures. He's going to show different fronts. I'm sure he's excited this game. Plus, they've got a few extra days to prepare for, so I'm sure that we'll see some wrinkles. It's always one of those unique things. It's every team that we seem to play, it always seems to have a few extra days leading up to it or a bye. But excited about the opportunity. But I think reality this game will come down to who can be cleanest in all three phases.
And then also, I guess, just speaking of that, I believe Skates, Brockington, a couple guys who I know you said Brockington was out for about. How are they coming along at this point, health-wise?
Yeah, I think Skates is still day-to-day. Brockington will still be out. And then Kobe Drake will still be out. And then we know Brandon Thomas is done for the season. Right. So just off the top of my head, those are the ones that, as of late, they would probably be of concern.
With Skates, is he leaning, would you say leaning towards, or still kind of, just depending on the nature of the injury?
Yeah, day to day. Truly, I mean, we'll see what happens. He's done a nice job trying to get back, and if he can, he will.
Is it related to the flu episodes you guys have had recently, or no?
No.
Okay.
Smith and Coffee, their success, is that competition level, or are they going to be in your future here for the next two games?
Yeah, credit to those guys. I think they did a nice job. Now, I also am very worried that it was also a fourth quarter of a game. And we've seen Sutton as a young man that I keep go back to this, like he was the only true freshman I really talked about back in August, because I'm always hesitant to even talk about true freshmen. We've seen Sutton get some playing time throughout this season. Obviously, he actually got the start for us at running back. So I think, we know that the future's bright for him and that stuff. And then Coffey's been one of those young men that's been a four-phase special teams guy that's really done it at a high level, and his first chance at running back. Look, with, the loss of Brandon Thomas and some of these other guys, we always go into the depth at running back later in the season. So if we need him in the games, he'll certainly be available.
What went into that decision to give him that start?
Well, I think we kind of looked at what, are some of the opening plays. I think part of that is, okay, what are we trying to do offensively to get the drive started? What are some of those things? And then also, sometimes it's just a confidence builder, right? Asa Martin's played a lot of football here. Obviously, a senior day, I'm so glad he was able to get the 2 scores. You never think about those things prior, but that it occurred during it. But, Sutton had done some things that showed some explosiveness that we thought that he deserved the start. Obviously, Jay Ducker continues to be a guy that we can count on. So, and then obviously Coffey. So we got guys in that rotation that we feel good with. But it was just one of those kind of looking at maybe what are some of the first few plays that we want to do. Also getting the confidence up with, getting those touches early rather than sitting there, especially, on a colder day, maybe just, okay, now it's all of a sudden, here goes in the 18-year-old trying to figure out if he can handle all the ball.
Brandon was getting the majority of the goal line touches, I would say, throughout the rest of the season. Would Asa or Jay be the favorite to get those? Are you leaning one way?
Yeah, most likely. Just because, if more than anything, because of their size. Both Asa and Jay are around the 190, 195 pound mark. Brandon was 208 plus pounds. And then so you look at it, and Sutton will eventually put on the good weight. I'd like to give him some of mine, but right now with him being a true freshman, I'm not sure how much we'll use him truly on the goal line. But yeah, I think as we get closer to short yards and goal line type situations, 2 of those guys, especially, they've had experience doing it, probably better off.
You mentioned SMU coming in with playing for the guarantee of a winning season. You guys are in that similar position. Have you had that locker room talk about just what that guarantee of a winning season means heading into this week?
Frank, and maybe I don't do a good enough job, or maybe it's just my philosophy on those things. It's no different when we talk about, okay, hey, this is homecoming, or this is senior night, or this is for a bowl, because the focus 100% has to be exactly what occurs in between those white lines for 4 hours, right? For 60 minutes of playing, and I think our guys truly understand what's at stake. I mean, I don't need to harp on it. It's just like when we were losing. Hey, do you talk to them about the losing streak? No, because they know, right? They're fully understanding and aware, and our guys don't need. I don't ever look out there and say, man, our guys are not motivated or inspired. Now, if we go out there Tuesday's practice, tomorrow's practice, and we're just hemming and hawing and going through the motions, yes, maybe there needs to be some type of other inspiration, and mentioning that may be. But I think in their heart of hearts, they understand how important it is. Plus, it's a huge game. It's another conference game. It's the next one, so I think they'll be dialed in and ready.
What comes to mind for you when you think of the SMU rivalry?
Yeah, it's one of those. You think about the growth of their program with what they've been able to do. They're one of those teams that has been on the really rising and done a nice job. With Coach Dykes there, and now with the change in coaching staff as well, and they've just done a really nice job with what they've done. And you go back and I always remember the college game day, and I think part of that was you could see them improving every year that I've been at Memphis, and now they're at the forefront of the NIL stuff. They don't hide from it. They come out and say, we're going to pay our players a lot of money, and this is what we're going to do. And so you think about, okay, this is going to be one of those traditional rivalries that as the conference changes, that will hang on for a long time, and it's exciting. They've got a historic program, and with their past history, but it's just one of those that we're excited. A lot of these games have been close ones, and I expect nothing different this Saturday.
Obviously, if you guys win this week, it'll be one more than last year. I know you say it's not a goal, you think about it, but just for the program, just kind of do you feel like if you guys take care of business, it would kind of be a nice note to end on before going into the bowl game? Yeah,
I think there's always, you always talk about momentum going into as the season ends, right? Ending, even my first year, right, winning the first bowl game for a while. I think that gave us some momentum, and it's always that positive feeling. And we're in a different world in college football, right, with, the portal and all these other things, and the way recruiting is, that it's always, anytime you can end the regular season on a positive note, I think it's for lack of a better term, it's a great feeling. And so, last year we didn't get to play a bowl game. In fact, you go back and finishing up my third regular season as a head coach, we've never been able to have a complete season, right? First year, COVID, 8-3, then a bowl game canceled on us 23 hours before kickoff, and we hope that we get to play a complete season this year. But this one will certainly make you feel like, okay, there's a nice ending to a regular season, and now let's see what we can do in a bowl game.
And you mentioned SMU, with the NIL stuff. I'm just curious, like for you, how do you handle those discussions now? Obviously, we saw what Laird Beach said this week, but just how do you handle those discussions with, are you involved with them with Laird and some of those discussions about NIL and maybe what Memphis can keep doing with that?
Yeah, and so credit to our president and our athletic administration. They've been phenomenal in discussing, right, what we want this thing to look like, how we can assist. Obviously, there's certain rules and there's certain things with the collective. Obviously, we can now openly discuss it, but we can't truly be involved with it. Right. And so credit to them. They've done a nice job of including me on all these discussions, which I think is important. Obviously, we have the majority of the student athletes within our program, when you look throughout as far as percentage-wise. So they've done a nice job with it. The discussions with the players, that's something I can't have. That's just kind of on their own. But we're going to do everything in our power to make it a great situation for our student athletes. And I know our administration is working hard to get the word out about NIL to our fans and to our donors and to our boosters, because it is very important to the future of our program.
And I was going to say, just on that note, like how involved are you with those discussions on getting people involved, speaking to people about that? Because like you said, it can be discussed now from a understanding perspective. How involved are you with those discussions with boosters and helping them understand what NIL can be for the importance of this program?
Yeah, in the off season, those are discussions. I've been very fortunate over the years to make some great friendships with people that have been so supportive of this program. So those discussions have occurred, right? Maybe at a lunch or a dinner. Now during the season, I'm going to my little shell and I don't have those talks, but I think it's more than anything just the education, because it is so new, and so many people say, hey, Coach, tell us, what is this? And is this something that we need to be a part of? And just having those open dialogue about what it is and the importance of it. And it's been good. People have been very receptive. And I think we're going to have something special here.
Yesterday at the basketball game, I don't remember which collective, handed out a handbook with all the Tiger basketball players where they scan, we tried it. You can scan and it lists what the player is charging per thing. Would football do something like that?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I can't be directly involved with that, but that's a great idea. It's something that I will certainly recommend. I don't know what is occurring up in the stands other than sometimes I see the T-shirt cannon going off and the kiss cam. I try to avoid that at all costs. But other than that, I don't. I know that the collective is doing everything in their power. I just don't know what the exact details may be occurring at our game. But yeah, it's a great idea, and I'm glad they were able to do it for basketball.
Coach, just 1 second. We did do that with football.
Yes.
Great, perfect.
Yes.
There you go.
Passed
So,
it out during one of the games. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you. So that shows you how. So yes, it has been done for football, and I'm glad. And they, look, everybody's been fantastic about it, and you know, our players also understand, you know, what they can do to continue to market themselves. But the university, as involved as they can be in our administration, have been absolutely phenomenal.
Is there like real restrictions on what coaches can and can't do when it comes to NIL?
Absolutely. It's, you know, it's. Is there a gray area? I'm sure. We don't even get close to that with compliance reasons, but we're able to have open discussions with boosters and people, hey, this is what NIL is, and educate them. But then an actual, the dialogue of the transactional, none of that goes our way. You hear about some other things that are other places, but that's neither here nor there. We're going to do it by the rules here and be very clear with what our defined roles are as coaches.
Is there anything to prevent you from going directly to the boosters and saying, hey, look, you know, you make your own personal play. We need this, or we need that?
I think you can tell them the importance of what NIL can do for our football program. You know, we're not talking individuals, but just saying, hey, our young men would love to have your support. There's a variety of different ways they can do it. Obviously, we do have a great collective. The 901 Fund has done a phenomenal job, and that's going to continue to grow. But that's, you know, all we can do is continue to encourage people to give to that, and I think it will make a huge difference and impact in our student athletes.
With that, I mean, you know, kind of going back with Larry said on Friday, do you feel like there's more that you can do to kind of like ask them, or is that something you either do after the season or is it before the season? How do you try to like ask, you know, I guess ask donors about that, because again, it is kind of, you know, that time where people are wondering what it's about, and how do you kind of approach donors with that?
Yeah, you know, it's new. So anything that's new is, you know, the first and foremost part of it's the education aspect. And like I said, obviously the university and the collective have done a nice job of continuing education with that. But then after the season, when time allows, right, it's, you know, I'll be pretty darn busy up until probably February 5th, and then even then it's nonstop. But then at those times when I'll be able to get out in front of some of these boosters and you know, have some of these discussions, just continue education about what this is and how important it is. And I think that's more than anything, you know, because some people say, okay, hey, where does the money need to go to? Does it need to go to, do you need an upgrade on, you know, the turf field, or are we better off giving the money to the NIL? And so those discussions, you know, ones that you sit down and have, just like you would with anything. When someone says, hey, do you need new computers for the coaches' offices? And, you know, if we do, great, and maybe that's something that's, you know, directly in our football budget, or maybe that's something we need to ask a booster about.
But when you have, you know, Larry sending out emails the way he did, just kind of putting on Front Street that Memphis is doing what they can, how do you think that helps in terms of recruiting, if I'm, you know, a high school kid seeing that this university is trying to have all those opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, look, credit to Laird and our athletic administration for being so forthright with it and saying, hey, this is the reality of it. And I appreciate that, because we're not hiding behind this thing saying, okay, this is nothing we want to get involved with. We're saying, hey, this is our athletic director being forefront saying, this is something we need to get done. And I think that's huge. I think that, you know, if I'm a current student athlete at the University of Memphis, I see that the athletic director is out there putting his name out there saying, this is something we need for our current people. This is what helps us. I think that's huge. And then if I'm a recruit saying, man, okay, that's a place I want to go because they actually truly mean it and they're doing everything in their power to try to assist those.
Do you share that same sentiment that Laird had?
Absolutely.
About the importance of it?
Absolutely.
In that sense?
Absolutely. Laird and I have been, you know, very tight knit on a shared vision on a lot of things, and I'm 100% supportive of his ideas and beliefs on that. And we've had those discussions, and I think it was a phenomenal deal that we did. Thanks, guys.